Welcome, everybody. If we could please begin taking our seats. Our program's going to be beginning shortly.
Between tools.
Thank
Now
you.
With Canva Business, everything.
Thank you, everybody. Our presentation will be beginning in just 1 minute.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Gateway Academy, welcome to the Senior Passion Project presentations for the class of 2026. We are excited to have our panelists, faculty and staff, families, and guests with us today, both in person and via live stream. We also extend a warm welcome to the class of 2030 joining us from John Hill School and Lincoln Park Middle School. Your presence reflects a strong connection between our schools and community and highlights our shared commitment to supporting students' growth. Today's presentations mark the culmination of a year-long academic endeavor. Our seniors have undertaken rigorous capstone projects, developing, researching, and implementing community-based initiatives that reflect both personal interest and real-world relevance. These projects are the result of careful planning, sustained inquiry, and the thoughtful application of skills that students have cultivated and learned throughout their time in the Gateway Academy program and at Booton High School. Plus, the occasional last-minute panic that surprisingly fuels creativity. Mentorship is a central component of the Senior Passion Project. Each student thoughtfully selected mentors from within the Booton School community and the broader professional community to provide guidance throughout the process. We extend our gratitude to these mentors whose support has been essential in helping our students bring ideas to fruition. Equally important is the leadership provided by our administration, which has guided and shaped the Gateway Academy experience over the last few years. We take this opportunity to thank Mr. Luis Castano for his leadership and contributions to the Gateway Academy program. We are also pleased to welcome Ms. Sabrina Vargas as the STEM and Gateway Academy Supervisor, grades 6 through 12, and she has already brought insight and thoughtful guidance to our program. We look forward to the continued growth and development her leadership will support.
Over the past 4 years, it has been a privilege to watch this group of seniors grow as scholars, leaders, and engaged members of the community. From their first days in the Gateway Academy to this culminating moment, they have consistently demonstrated critical thinking, collaboration, and a commitment to excellence. Today's presentations showcase that growth and the intellectual curiosity that defines this class. Seniors, today is a moment to pause and recognize how far you've come. The work you'll share is the result of sustained effort, persistence, and curiosity. More importantly, it reflects the kind of thinkers and problem solvers you've become. You've demonstrated that even under pressure, and sometimes right before the deadline, you can produce something remarkable. You've definitely proven that you can take an idea and turn it into something meaningful. And that's something to be proud of. We certainly are. To our panelists, thank you for sharing your time and expertise. Your questions and feedback not only acknowledge our students' efforts, but also encourage their continued development and refinement. As we begin, we invite everyone to listen attentively and engage with curiosity as we celebrate the work of our seniors. The Senior Passion Project is a milestone that reflects years of growth within the Gateway Academy. It represents a transition as our students move forward prepared to contribute positively beyond Booton High School. Before we begin, a few brief housekeeping reminders. Please take a moment to silence your phone and be considerate to those around you. We kindly ask that applause be held until the conclusion of each presenter's panel questions. Gateway seniors, Please remember to visit room 123 following your presentation to record your reflective video with Ms. Oliveri. Thank you again for joining us to support and celebrate the Gateway Academy class of 2026. We are proud to share their work with you. Let us begin.
Good morning, my name is Alexandria D'Angelo, and for my Gateway Senior Project, I wanted to bring dance to all. And by doing this, I hosted inclusive dance events for children. A little bit about myself and my dance journey. I'm currently a senior here at Boonton High School, and I've been involved in GSA throughout my 4 years of high school. GSA is really where I gained a lot of my choreographing experience. Moving on to my dance journey, I started dancing when I was in preschool, and at the age of 9 is where I really got a glimpse of the competitive world. I took a couple years leave, and then it wasn't until my freshman year of high school where I really developed love and passion for dance. Throughout my 4 years, I've been in numerous solo performances, group routines, and duos as well, and I gained a lot of experience in different dance styles such as lyrical, jazz, contemporary, ballet, and hip hop. Moving on to my mentors, so my in-school mentor was Miss Centenary, who is a gym teacher here at Boonton High School, and she helped me come up with the idea of hosting a dance event for children. Moving on to my next community mentor is Miss Alyssa, who was my dance choreographer and instructor at Diamond Dance in Parsippany, New Jersey. Miss Alyssa has had a lot of experience with younger students and older students as well, and she was the perfect person to go to when helping me come up with the choreography to perform at my event. And then my last community mentor is Miss Mondino, who is the youth services coordinator. Moving on to the psychological benefits that dance has on children, this improves self-esteem, increases self-confidence, and overall emotional expression, reporting 93% of students with a higher self-confidence rate. Development of dance in early childhood. So 11 to 31% of children have had higher integration scores in social emotional development, improving their literacy and motor skills. So why is dance important to me? So being that I've been dancing since I was a baby, dance is where I feel like I can really express myself through movement when words can't. When I get on stage and the lights are shining and the music starts, I feel like dancing is my way of connecting with the audience on a deeper level. So the problem. So not a lot of studios are beginner friendly. From my experience, when joining my dance studio at the age of 9, I was essentially just thrown into the competitive world, and I really had to adapt quickly. Many kids lack access to dance. Dance can be financially expensive for families, and which prevents their kids from dancing. And overall, kids have a fear of trying something new. Those first-time nerves when you go into something tend to stick throughout for many years, which lead to the child quitting. So my solution was I wanted to host free dance events for children with no financial pressure at all and open to all skill levels. So whether you had dance experience or you didn't, all were welcome. And most of all, create a safe and welcoming environment for the children. So the goals of my project were to increase access to dance to those that have had no experience of dance, overall build their confidence, create an inclusive environment, and overall make dance fun for them. So my steps taking. So from May through June of 2025 was when I really started planning. I knew that I was most passionate about dance, and I wanted my project to be based on this. And then moving from September through October of 2025 is when I started contacting my mentors. I reached out to Ms. Centenary due to her musical background, and she helped me come up with the idea of hosting an event for children. And then I reached out to my dance instructor, Miss Alyssa, and she helped me come up with a choreography that I used to show them during my event. And then in November of 2025 is where I contacted Miss Mondino, and she allowed me to use the space in the library to perform my events. And then from December of 2025 through March of 2026 is when the events came to life. And in this image is the event plan that I followed throughout both of my events. So step 1 was warming up the kids, instructing them, getting ready to teach the combo. And then step 2 was them teaching the combo, which was a 30-second dance combo. When teaching this combo, I did it with music and without, and step by step, so they can really understand each movement. And then the last part of the event was teaching them basic techniques and very much beginner friendly, such as leaps, turns, and kicks, so they can really get that first foundational support of dance. So the 2 images in the middle are how I advertised my event and gained participants. So this was able to be published onto the Boot and Holmes Library, and that's where I gained my participants for my event. I also knew that I wanted to take pictures and videos throughout my event, so I printed out permission slips to hand out to the parents of the children so they could sign, so then I can use these images in my presentation. And then the last 2 images are the sign-up sheets. And for the first event, we had 7 girls who attended, and for the second event, we had 6 girls who attended. So the first event took place on December 3rd. And in this picture here is my good friend Natalia, who I danced with as well, and she was able to assist me in both of my events. So as you can see in the image is us stretching up the girls, getting them ready, and then in the next picture is us teaching them the actual combo. At the end of the event, I decided to give them a little gift and a reward for them doing so well. And then my second event took place on March 11th, and my friend Natalia was able to help me with this as well. And it was a very similar formatting, except for the first event, we decided to do 2 hours, and then we realized that 2 hours, we didn't really need that much time. So for the second event, we decided to do 1 hour instead. And it was very similar formatting, and we had perfect amount of time, stretching up the girls, and then teaching them the combo again, which is a jazz combo for both events. And then same thing at the end was a gift for them as a reward, and then here's a video of me teaching them the combo. So the outcome of my project. So kids tried dance for the first time. I believe there were only 2 girls from both events that had dance experience and the rest didn't. So this was a perfect first opportunity for them. And there was repeat attendees. So there were 2 girls from my first event that were in my second event as well. And then overall, there was a request for more events and a lot of positive feedback from both parents and kids. And overall, you can really tell that the kids had a lot of fun. So here's some feedback from Miss Mondino, and just to summarize this for you, she said that she would like me to come back over the summer and continue these events and collaborate more. And overall, she noticed that the kids had a lot of fun. So my challenges, so scheduling conflicts. So there were a lot of days where I was available or the space at the library wasn't available. So I really had to coordinate and communicate with Miss Mondino of the day that worked best for the both of us. And then recruiting participants and advertising. This wasn't a big issue, being that I was able to advertise my event onto the Boot and Holmes Library page. Although my goal was 12 participants, I didn't end up reaching that goal, so moving forward in the future, I would like to advertise my event more. And then overall, simplified routines. So I really had to come up with a choreography that aligned with younger children. And then my takeaways. So clear communication and planning helps events run smoothly. There were times where the kids were having a little bit too much fun and maybe kind of got off task sometimes, and my friend Natalia was really able to help me bring them back to center and focus them back onto the event. And kids thrive in safe and welcoming spaces, and inclusion isn't always automatic. So throughout the event, you really want to encourage the kids and really say, good job, you're doing great, and this really helps them build that self-confidence, which then leads to them having fun. And overall, small actions can have a large impact. So just by me hosting these 2 events, Ms. Mondino would like me to come back, which really shows the impact that these 2 events had on the library, being that they really didn't have something like this. So my next steps, I plan to reach out to Ms. Mondino over the summertime and continue these events. I either plan to host them either once a month or twice a month. And then if I were to continue this, I would want to advertise more. So I would either start a social media page dedicated to just my event so I could really reach that goal of participants that I want. Thank you for listening.
So how did you determine that the need that you identified was authentic and it was meaningful for the town or for the community?
I'm sorry, do you mind repeating the question again?
Sure. How did you determine that the need that you identified in dance was meaningful or authentic to the community?
So I know I did mention that at the library they didn't really have these events, and I thought this was like the perfect opportunity because I know that I'm very much passionate about dance, and I really wanted to share my passion with younger children. So I feel as though this was like the perfect idea to reach out to Miss Mondino and host these events.
You did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
My question for you, has this project influenced any future academic or career interests for you?
So it is my senior year of dance, and it's essentially my last year of dancing, and I'm committing to Seton Hall in the fall. And they don't have a dance program, unfortunately, but I did apply to this leadership program that I plan to do throughout my 4 years of college. And throughout this leadership project is very similar. We do different projects within the leadership program. So I hope to continue possibly this project as my leadership project in college.
I hope you do. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
Alexandria, I thought you were speaking very, very well.
Thank you.
If you had an additional month to work on this project, what would you have done differently, or what would you have added to this?
Definitely more helpers. Being it was just my friend and I feel like a lot more helpers would kind of make the event run smoothly because like I did say, there were times where the kids kind of lost a little bit focus and it kind of took some time to bring their focus back into the event. So I think more helpers for this event would definitely be much more beneficial.
Thank you.
Hi, Alex.
Hi.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
Congratulations. I just want to ask you, what are you most proud of and what did you learn about yourself throughout this process?
Do you mind repeating the question again?
Sure.
Thank
What
you.
are you most proud of and what did you learn about yourself throughout this process?
So I would say I'm most proud of being able to like run a group like of girls. Like I'm a very shy person and this was really out of my comfort zone of leading an event. So yeah.
All right, good morning, everyone. There we go, talking to in a live room. My name is Matt Campos. This is my senior passion project called the Morris County Fishing Camps. So, a little bit of breakdown of how the presentation is going to run. Going to keep it very simple. Going to get to all the points and get y'all out of here. So, going to break down the who, what, when, where, why, and that should give you a general picture of how I completed this entire project. So, we're going to begin with the who. Who is actually involved with the project itself? So we're going to start with me. Like I said, my name is Matt Campos. I'm a Gateway senior. On top of that, I'm a second-degree black belt. I practice martial arts for right about 12 years, and I am a former martial arts instructor. I'm employed at the Lakeland Hills YMCA. Started off there as a lifeguard, and then fairly recently, I got promoted to be what's called a deck supervisor. I started off just running the afternoon special needs aquatics program. Now I run almost all of the afternoon swim instruction at the Lakeland Hills YMCA. I am the captain of the mock trial team. I am the secretary of the National Honor Society, and in all those other clubs that you see. In addition to all of that, I got admitted to Kane University upon a full ride academic scholarship. But on top of everything, I am an avid outdoorsman and environmentalist. My out-of-school mentor was Christopher Jaszewski. He is a police officer at the Montclair Police Department. He is a father, he is a husband, And much like me, he's an avid fisherman, outdoorsman, and environmentalist. He was very big with the hands-on support. He was there with me during all the sessions that I'm about to talk about, and he was my primary go-to for any help, any resources, and everything, both during the sessions and outside. My two in-school mentors were Mr. Michael Lavaglio and Mr. Vincenzo LeGiudice. Initially, it was Mr. Lavaglio, and then shortly after, he went on paternity leave because he had his first child. So then I went over to Mr. LeGiudice and asked him for some help. Both of them were primary points for ideas. They were points for communication, bounced things off of them, saw how things would go, what they thought of it. They were very important points of feedback. So on to the why I completed this project. This is very, very important to me for one primary reason. This picture is right about, I'd say, 14 years old. That was probably the first fish I caught when I was maybe 4 years old. And that one moment was very special for me. Like I said, I'm a big fan of the outdoors, big fan of fishing, and this moment right here was special to me. First fish I caught, and I wanted to have this special moment for other people. Other people who may not have gotten outdoors before, other people who may not have been fishing before, and I wanted them to feel the adrenaline, feel the rush, and feel the joy of being outside and actually doing something with your hands. So, moving on to the when and where the project got completed. It all took place last summer between my junior and senior year, and it was at this place called Lake Montauk, right inside of Montville. It's a small little, between the size of a lake and a pond, but I've been fishing there ever since I was a little kid. I know the area around it inside and out. I know where the fish hold, I know where they don't. And this place is very important to me, and I thought that I can use this place as an important place for other people as well. I know the area around it very well, so it was a very useful location to go to. So, on to what I actually did. I had two primary project goals that I wanted upon the completion of it. The first one was I wanted it to be personal to me. I wanted it to involve something with my own personal history and something that I personally love. And I also wanted it to be impactful. I wanted it to be community-driven, and I wanted there to be some kind of a real effect, something for people to actually look back on and remember, not just some fading memory in the past. So I settled on fishing camps. The two main principles that I chose fishing camps based on, besides the past two, were the principles of outdoorsmanship and environmentalism. Outdoorsmanship is getting outside. It's working with your hands. It's being out in nature and teaching you how to do things besides sit inside, besides sit on a computer, besides watch TV, and how to actually enjoy the beautiful nature that's on this planet. And then the idea of environmentalism. That's less of the how and more of the why. Why do we protect the planet? Why is the planet important to us? And why do we do environmental recreation? Why is it something that people have been practicing for thousands upon thousands of years? So, to actually begin the project, 3 main steps of planning and preparation for its completion. Number 1 was communication. First, talk to Chris. Spoke with him about dates, spoke with him about planning, spoke with him about every single thing that was related to this project, reached out to the parents of many people that I knew so that they could then spread the word to other people and any other associated individuals that I need. Then, got the equipment. Had to buy rods, line, hooks, lures, bait, everything that I need. I needed snacks, handful of other tools, pliers, everything related that you need for fishing. And then had to actually plan the dates. I had to reach out to everyone, check all of my equipment, make sure that everything was good, then we can move on. Additionally, right here, this is a form that I had the parents of every single child that is in an image sign, just for all legal purposes. So, process of how each session went. We would arrive, greet the parents, greet the kids, make sure everyone was in their spots, make sure everyone knew what to do. Then I'd go through a little bit of an introduction. For anyone new, I'd introduce myself, I'd introduce Chris, then we'd get rolling. I brought my iPad every single time, and I would show some custom media that I made for everyone. Up there in the top, that is a list of the 4 primary fish species that inhabited Lake Montauk, and the 4 primary ones that we would catch. And then underneath is a very, very, very basic breakdown of the rods and the primary equipment that we would be using. I tried to keep everything as simple as I possibly could because most of the kids that I was working with were fairly young, primarily between the ages of 6 to 10. So I wanted everything to be easy, digestible, and simple. Then we would get to actually fishing. During that, I would initially work with them. I'd be right beside kids, me and Chris. We'd be beside them. We'd be casting and handing them the rod. And then gradually, we'd wean them on to independence. How well can they do things by themselves? We'd stand behind them, and eventually, they were getting to the point where they could do everything by themselves. Then upon the conclusion, collect up all the equipment, do a little bit of a debrief, send everyone on their way. This is a video that's some of the custom media that I made using a very advanced video software known as Google Slides to just show a very, very basic breakdown of how catching a fish works for someone who's never touched a fishing rod in their entire life. As you can see, very complex video software up there. Here's a few of the pictures. Didn't get as many pictures as I would have wanted. I was running around left and right. There was equipment failure over here. Kid caught a fish over there. Someone dropped their rod over there. Someone needed a new lure all the way on the other side of the lake. So I had to run around left and right. But here's a handful of the pictures. Young gentleman in the blue caught many fish. And this is actually young gentleman in the blue. This is on a different day. This was his very first independent cast. I don't think he caught a fish on that one, but that's not important. All right, so a few basic stats for how the sessions went. Number one, we had about 7 kids per session. That one stayed pretty consistent throughout. Number two, we had right about 2 fish per kids. This one, though, had some pretty high variability. Some kids caught none, other ones caught 8, bouncing all around, so that one right about an average of 2. And finally, right about 2 bags of chips per kid every single session. I had to feed these kids, keep them happy every single time. So, the skills and takeaways that I wanted everyone, upon the conclusion of this project, to bring home with them and bring into the rest of their life. So, the 2 main parts are first, the other mental ideas that I wanted them to take home. The respect for nature, the appreciation for nature, and the relativity of how nature works. And what do I mean by relativity? I'm going to read 2 statistics for y'all. The first is that the Exxon Valdez oil spill released right about 11 million gallons of oil into the Prince William Sound of Alaska in 1989. And the second one is that 38.11 billion tons of carbon dioxide were released into the atmosphere in the year of 2025. By a show of hands, who knows how big those 2 numbers are? Good. These numbers are so gargantuan that the human mind cannot wrap itself around it. They're simply too large for us to comprehend. But what we can comprehend is a dirty pond. We can comprehend the place that we've been going to as a young child being polluted and filled with garbage. So, I want them to get that early life appreciation for nature and that early life appreciation for the outdoors, so they can understand what happens when things actually get polluted and not just read giant numbers inside of news articles and not understand what it means. And that's how I completed the project. So, reflection. What could I have done better? What did I complete successfully? How did it go overall? Overall, the project went very positively. Obviously, there's room for improvement, but the general project went very well. And was the end goal met? Did I do what I set out to do? I believe, yes, I did. A lot of improvements that I could have made, I'm going to be honest. Planning, you're going to hear that a lot tonight. Planning is always a point of contention. Planning always needs to be improvement. Same with communication. Got to talk to everyone. Got to make sure everyone's on the same page. But we live and we learn. And coordination with other people, again, always just a room for improvement. And equipment failures. This is an ugly stick. It is a brand of rod and is some that I purchased for this project. I brought some of my own, but I purchased 2 ugly sticks. Here's my rating of the ugly stick. Giant red cross. That thing broke down several times. I had to field strip it several times and get that thing back to scratch probably 6 times throughout the entire course of this project. Got to make sure that my equipment's good, but something that we learned from. A few takeaways from the community. I hope that the community took away that this was a fun and engaging activity, that the environmental impact that I am preaching is real, and that we can encourage more nature-based recreation within society as a whole, because that has been on the decline in past years. And for myself, was a point of professional development, was a point of leadership, learned adaptability, learned communication, general positive takeaways of any leadership project. Thank you. Any questions?
Now, Matt, I am also a very avid fisherman and a very outdoorsy person myself. So my question isn't one on this list, but you being a Lincoln Park resident, you probably know that Lincoln Park Lake used to hold a fishing derby decades ago.
Yes.
They've stopped doing that recently. Now, is that something, if you want to continue growing on this, would you like to even go back to where you live and reside in Lincoln Park and start to build up the fishing community back there?
That would be fantastic. That would be a much larger scale project. I'd most likely need to get into communication with the town government, Department of Recreation, everything related to that. I'd also need to check to see what the current fish population within the lake is. That would involve a little bit of scientific study on my part, mainly just going out there fishing, seeing what's there. If not, I may need to get into communication with some higher authorities, see what the New Jersey Fish and Wildlife Service can do with stocking that pond. However, that would be a fantastic idea to grow on. That would be a great way to progress this project from Little Lake Montauk to Big Lincoln Park Lake.
Thank you. If you need any help with the Recreation Department, I think I know somebody.
Thank you, Mr. Delport.
Excellent job. How many different events did you wind up doing?
I believe the number was 3.
Okay.
Believe I hosted a total of 3 sessions, all from right about mid-July to mid-August.
Okay, fantastic.
Great work. So, out of curiosity, I noticed that you mentioned that you purchased the supplies. Did you have to host any fundraisers? Did you have any trouble getting any sort of financial background, or did you have to do it out of pocket to kind of host these events?
Didn't really do any fundraisers. I did it out of pocket. I work a lot. Also, I was able to fund most of this project myself, relatively inexpensive. I had most of the equipment myself, so I didn't need any kind of major financial backing for this project.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Great job, Matt. So you mentioned a little bit about kind of teaching the kids about environmental impact as well. Was there like a direct conversation you had with them? Any lessons you really hope they kind of received from their time with you?
Yeah, so upon the conclusion of the sessions, that's when I really drove home that point. Talk about what they did, what they could have done better in terms of the fishing skills, but then I would ask them, what did you think about it? And then I would bridge into the idea of how this lake is special. This lake is a thriving ecological center, and that it's important that that there's a declining number of these kinds of ecological centers within the world, and that this is an important place that we need to protect. And just during that debrief session is when I would kind of begin to introduce that point a little bit more.
Good morning. My name is Ava Van Munen Weininger, and this is my Gateway Senior Passion Project, Second Save Lives, Empowering Bystanders in Emergencies. So a little bit about myself. I am a Gateway Senior here at Boonton High School. I'm involved in many clubs, both inside and outside of school, but my favorite is being a member of Boonton Volunteer EMS, which was the inspiration for this project. Specifically, my work on 911 calls, I realized that there's a big gap in bystanders' understanding of how to act in medical emergencies. So I picked 3 that I think everyone should know, which is treating opioid overdoses using Narcan, treating anaphylactic shock with EpiPens, and then administering CPR when someone's in cardiac arrest. And my goal was to empower community members with practical life-saving knowledge that they can use to hopefully save more lives. So in this project, I'm going to go into a little bit more of a background, and then I'm going to talk about my outreach and planning, the actual events themselves, my findings from these events, and a conclusion. So for a little bit more of a background, a lot of research has shown that there are large gaps in the public's knowledge on life-saving skills. Specifically, in regards to cardiac arrest, only about half of out-of-hospital cardiac arrest victims receive bystander CPR, meaning that there's not enough training for CPR itself. In addition to that, AED use is very low throughout the entire world, and specifically in the United States, despite its widespread availability. In regards to opioid overdose, I'm sure everyone in this room has heard of Narcan, but most people do not carry it with them despite its widespread availability. And only about 1/3 of people actually know that you can get Narcan for free at your local pharmacy. And then in regards to anaphylactic shock and using EpiPens to treat shock, not many individuals who actually are allergic to something and are prescribed an EpiPen carry it with them, and only about 16 to 30% of the time when an EpiPen is it administered properly, meaning that there's a very large gap in knowledge surrounding the use of EpiPens. So all three of these traits are actually all three of these emergencies are life-threatening, and so they pose immediate life threats, meaning they compromise breathing and circulation. However, the commonality between all these traits is also that bystanders can act quickly and save a life. So with that, the problem that I wanted to address was, despite the availability of life-saving tools, there's a specific gap in public knowledge, confidence, and preparedness, preventing effective action during medical emergencies. Okay, so for planning and outreach, there are 4 main steps that I took. The first was identifying these 3 emergencies based off of my personal experience. I then did a lot of research and gathered a lot of information about these tools, and then put it into a website that was interactive and also simplistic, so anyone without medical knowledge could actually understand what they were reading. And then I planned out my in-person events. So for outreach, there are 2 key groups that I reached out to. The first was Morris County Prevention is Key, which is out of Rockaway, New Jersey, and they are a local nonprofit that focuses on harm reduction as well as Narcan distribution. They work with a lot of community partners such as the sheriff to spread information on opioid overdoses as well. And then I also reached out to the New Jersey Harm Reduction Coalition, which is a statewide program that works on harm reduction, obviously, and specifically Narcan distribution throughout the state. Okay, so for my events, my first event was actually creating a website, and what I wanted to do with that website is create a central hub where all the information, research, and resources that I had gathered could go into one place. And I really wanted to make sure that this was simple and interactive. Within the website, I focused on Narcan itself, EpiPens, and CPR. I also provided links and resources to free first aid classes, both in person and online, so anyone could learn how to do CPR themselves, and where to get Narcan for free. So here's a video. As you can see, I created 3 subsections that focused on Narcan. That included videos on how to use Narcan itself, as well as where to get it for free, and also how to spot an opioid overdose. Then I had a section for using EpiPens to treat anaphylactic shock. I put both videos and pictures so you know how to actually use the pen itself, and then I created a resource focusing on how to identify when someone's in anaphylactic shock. And then finally for CPR, I provided links to CPR classes as well as first aid classes that were local to Morris County, and just information on if someone's going into cardiac arrest. And then my second event was distributing EpiPen brochures to the local food businesses on Main Street. And in these brochures that I created both English and Spanish, since we have a very large Spanish-speaking population in town, I focused on identifying the signs and symptoms of anaphylactic shock, how to administer an EpiPen, and then how to care for someone after they have received an EpiPen. So there's a picture of the brochure. As I said, I focused on a simple design that still got a lot of the information across, making sure that nothing was lost in translation just because it was simple. And then my final event was hosting a Narcan information session, which I held at the Boone Holmes Library on January 15th. And in this session that was open to the community, I wanted to raise awareness on how to spot when someone is experiencing an opioid overdose, how to administer Narcan itself, and then just the dangers in general of opioid overdoses in our community. I was lucky enough to have Miss Julie Totten from Morris County Prevention is Key come and speak at the event. She's an experienced educator in opioid prevention and Narcan training. I was also able to hand out free Narcan kits that were sent to me by the New Jersey Harm Reduction Coalition, and I will show a picture of that. These kits had the packs had 2 Narcan kits as well as a CPR face shield and some information on how to distribute the Narcan. And then there's some more pictures from the event. Julie had created a slideshow that she presented that went into a lot of the details on why overdoses occur, how common they are, what it looks like for someone experiencing an overdose. So there were a couple challenges I faced with this project, as happens with any project. The first thing was simplifying the medical information and all the research that I had gathered in an interactive way, which I think I was able to do through the website and keeping the information as simple as possible. And then through this project, I also had the opportunity to learn how to reach out to a lot of different people. This was the first time I really had to reach out to the community, and it took some trial and error. So in the future, I really want to make sure I know who's the right person to reach out to and who maybe I shouldn't reach out to make sure it gets out to everyone. So results and findings. With this project, I'd had 2 key outcomes. The first was the creation of the website, where I was really able to create a central location that anyone could access and learn more about the tools that I had picked. And then I was also able to reach out to the community in a few different ways, which was great. The first was informing the local businesses on life-saving actions they could take if they were ever at work and someone went into anaphylactic shock. The second was reaching out to the town community on the dangers of an overdose and how to use Narcan to treat an overdose if they see it in public, and then distributing kits to the community because you can't treat an overdose if you don't have Narcan. So there is a lot of data to support why I wanted to reach out to the community. The first was that if more people know how to do CPR, more lives will obviously be saved, because if CPR is done, it can actually double or triple the chances of survival. Second is if there's more availability of Narcan, someone experiencing an overdose, if they were to receive Narcan, is 8.5 times more likely to survive the overdose. And then for my impact assessment, I can say that I was able to increase community awareness and preparedness, which will reduce hesitation in emergency situations. And then I also learned in my session from a little bit of feedback that people are interested in learning about first aid skills. And then if you can take anything away from this project, it would be that you should know CPR, you should carry Narcan, and you should know where AEDs are around you when you're in public. There's a link to my website. Does anyone have any questions?
Hello. Okay, perfect. Hi, Ava. You did a great job. I'm really impressed by your website and the creative content that you made. I just have a question. So I know you spoke about the importance of people learning CPR. In my experience, I found a lot of training sessions that you have to pay for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if you found any free training sessions around this area that would be helpful for people to know.
Yeah, I did. It's on the section, if you scan the QR code and you go into my website under CPR, there's links to a lot of classes that are happening in the next couple of months. And also if you look at the local first aid squads, I know mine hasn't done one the Boonton one hasn't done one recently, but the Lincoln Park ambulance squad does one a lot. But any local first aid squad, they usually hold one at least once a year that's for free. Thank you.
You did really good job, and these are three very important topics to teach people. Were you able to show them how to use the EpiPen using the trainer?
I didn't have a trainer with me, no.
Oh, okay. But you did a wonderful job, and I think keep it up. It's very important. Even share with your friends and classmates so they can learn. These are important skills for everybody. Good luck.
Thank you.
Great job, Ava. I wanted to highlight, I love how accessible you made the information. I love that you had it in English and in Spanish. I think that's so important and speaks to your knowledge of the community and et cetera. So my question is, if you were going to take this on a wider scale, what might you do if you had the resources to do that?
I would definitely expand to more first aid topics. I just picked the biggest three that I think bystanders need to know, but I think there's so much more that everyone should know in regards to first aid. And then my original plan was actually to include it in more languages like Arabic, since a lot of people speak Arabic in town as well. So I would love to do that and create more resources and have those translated to Arabic in the future.
Okay, great job.
Thank you.
One question I had is, of the three different types of like emergency responses, was there one that had the biggest gap in knowledge that stuck out?
I would say EpiPens. They are very self-explanatory, but not a lot of people know how to use them. I had stats on one of my slides that a lot of people who are allergic to something don't actually carry an EpiPen with them, which isn't very good.
Great job, Ava. I'm just curious, when you went up and down to the local businesses and passed out the brochures, what was the reaction?
The employees seemed to be a little bit interested. I really only handed it to the employees, but there wasn't much of like, oh wow, this is great. It was more like, oh, thank you. So.
I like that idea. Good job.
Hey, great job. Similar question. Was anyone like not really receptive to you coming in and spreading awareness on this?
Not for the EpiPens. For the Narcan, there was a little bit of pushback from the town. I tried to post it on the town Facebook, and it just never got sent out, which is one of the reasons that I wanted to host the session in the first place, is that opioid overdoses are a little bit taboo still, even though they are a very common occurrence. So.
Yeah. Great job.
Thank you.
Great job, by the way. I only was wondering, because I know that you're a senior and you're graduating, is this something that you plan to continue, either hosting the information sessions, either in town or with your community in the future? And is there any advice that you would give to someone passing the mantle, if this is something you want to continue?
Yeah, so this is definitely something I'm going to continue. I'm actually going to Rutgers, and I'm a part of the Rutgers Health Service Corps, which is also what inspired this project a little bit, so I'll definitely continue it down there. And in town, I am a member of the Boonton Volunteer EMS, and we should be doing more harm reduction stuff, so I think we're going to carry that out in the future.
That's excellent. Great job.
Oh, if anyone wants a Narcan kit, I have one, so during the break, if you want one, I have one.
Thank you, Ava. We will, at this time, take a short break. So if anyone needs to stretch or use the bathroom, we will be back in exactly 10 minutes for the next presentation. Thank you all.
If you've got great ideas, you can turn them into great ads with Canva AI. Simply prompt what you need, and Canva will generate it.
If I can have
So take a seat and keep your ideas moving. With
if
Canva
I can
AI.
have everyone's attention, we're going to get started in just a minute. So we'd like everyone to return to their seats. We invite panel members to come back to their seats as well. Audience, we should get started in just a minute. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Megan Koha, and this is my senior passion project on how injuries can really affect athletes, but more importantly, how injury prevention can help stop that from happening. My research focuses on knee injuries, specifically ACL tears in female athletes. So this project is really personal to me. I've grown up my whole life playing basketball, and it's something that means so much to me and is so special to me. I've had so many experience playing the sport, and one of the biggest challenges that I faced, however, playing in life was my sophomore year here at Boonton. A minute into our second scrimmage of the year, I landed awkwardly and dislocated my kneecap. It was probably one of the hardest experiences I've ever had to go through, and it really taught me how devastating injuries can be for athletes. Not only is it physically challenging, but it's mentally hard to go through. It really made me curious, and that's why I'm standing up here today talking about this topic. So one of the biggest issues that we're seeing in today's society is ACL tear rates. This graph up here shows specific ACL tear rates in high school athletes, and what stands out immediately is ACL tear rates in females. Females are 4 to 8 times more likely to experience ACL injuries, and these injuries happen off of non-contact. They're mostly not from a collision, they're from normal movements like landing from a jump or pivoting or cutting, and so that raises the important question. If these injuries happen off of normal movements, why are they so much higher risk in females? So according to Northwestern Medicine, there are 3 main reasons as to why females are at a higher risk. Those 3 reasons include anatomy, biomechanics, and hormones, and these 3 factors can influence how much stress is placed directly on the knee joint. So to kind of dive into each of these 3 topics, anatomy just refers to overall the structure of the body. One key difference between males and females is something called the Q angle. This is the angle that is formed between the knees and the hips. Women naturally have wider hips, so they naturally have a larger Q angle, making them more susceptible to these injuries because more stress is placed on the ACL, which is the ligament that stabilizes the knee joint. And then biomechanics, this just refers to overall how the body moves. In this image up here, you can see a proper landing versus a more riskier landing. On the left side, you can see the athlete lands with their knees bent, and they're allowing their body to absorb the force of the jump. But then on the right side, you can see that the athlete is landing in a more upright position with minimal knee bend, and they're not allowing their body to absorb that contact. And then this can lead to valgus collapse. That is when the knees bend inward, and that's where you see most of these ACL tears happening. And then the last factor is hormones. This refers to just women experience hormonal changes that can really affect estrogen, and estrogen can affect ligament laxity, which means the ligaments can become more loose or flexible, making them more vulnerable to these ACL tears. So with all these risks and factors, I wanted to do something that could actually make an impact on this topic. So I decided to create an injury prevention session, and I worked directly with middle school female athletes to do this. So I had several people help me along the way, and without them, this wouldn't have been possible. Mr. Delaporte, he was my in-school mentor. He really helped me organize this project, as well as get me connected with the Lincoln Park Middle School girls basketball coaches.
Miss Adebato and Miss Bonzwich are the coaches. They are two people that are really special to me and have influenced my life, and I'm so grateful for them allowing me to kind of go into their practice time this year and help the girls. And then my out-of-school mentor, Karen Polak, she is my physical therapist, someone who has dramatically influenced my life and has helped me through so many difficult times the past 4 years. And I remember when I was recovering from my knee injury, I asked her, why are we seeing so many ACL tears in female athletes? And she kind of talked about the imbalances that I mentioned before, so that really inspired me to do this project today. So in the actual session, I wanted to split up the exercises into 2 different parts. I felt it was important to kind of highlight both different exercises. So the first part is dynamic warm-up exercises. If you're an athlete or if you do any type of physical activity, you know you have to warm up your body before actually performing your sport. So these exercises just help activate your muscles and increase your blood flow to prevent any injuries from occurring. So some of these exercises included butt kicks, high knees, lunges with the twist, and leg swings. Here are some of the images of the girls completing the exercises. So for each exercise, I would demonstrate it and then they would practice them. I really wanted them to focus on doing the exercises correctly rather than just going through the motions, because that'll really be beneficial for them in the long run. And then the second part is strength and stability exercises. So these mainly focus on body control. Body control is something that's so important when talking about injury prevention. So some of these included planks, squat jumps, walking lunges, lateral hops, and single leg stands. These help your body absorb any contact or force through your muscles instead of your ligaments. And here are some of the images of them completing those. These were a little more fun for them and engaging for them to do. They're a little more unfamiliar. They're not like as monotonous and familiar to them as like the warm-up exercises that you do before every practice and every game. So the overall purpose of all these exercises is to teach us as athletes how to really listen to our bodies and move our bodies correctly to avoid any awkward landings. So better balance is going to lead to safer landings. Stronger muscles is going to lead to having less stress on your ligaments. And improved control is going to lead to fewer injuries, which is obviously the main goal of this project. So I wanted to collect feedback and data directly from the girls just to kind of get their thoughts on it. So I created a Google form and I asked them about their prior knowledge about this subject before going into this, and they all expressed to me a lack of knowledge regarding this subject. And another problem that I found in society in general is only 6% of sports media focuses on females, and so I felt it was important for me to kind of go in and explain this topic to them, as it's not going to be highlighted in the news or in social media. So then based on the prior slide, them having a lack of knowledge, they all expressed to me that they learned something from this, and that was the main goal of this project. 80% strongly agreed that their understanding improved, and they all expressed to me that they would continue to use these exercises before games or practices, and that they felt comfortable doing them on their own, which was really important to me. And then some of the key takeaways that I took from this project is that knee injuries or injuries in general are always going to be common in sports. They're a part of the game, but if we learn how to kind of control our bodies and move our bodies correctly, you can prevent these things from happening to an extent. Small habits can really make a big difference. Learning how to warm up correctly or do every movement with a purpose rather than just dragging through and going through the motions is going to lead to better habits and a safer future. And then most importantly, like I said before, is that the girls were really understanding what I was teaching them, and I felt that they all showed an improve in their confidence regarding these exercises. So I learned a lot more from this experience than just the research and analytics behind these injuries. Although that was fascinating and so interesting to learn, I learned really how to coach and teach these girls. That's something that I aspire to do one day and that I'm really interested in. And one of the challenges that I faced going into this project was, how do you approach talking about injuries with 6th through 8th graders? It can be something that's scary to think about, but I just went in with it with patience and understanding and really wanted to explain to them the full importance of what we were doing. And then I learned leadership skills through collaboration and communication with my mentors. And it also just reinforced to me the most important thing, that it's really just about protecting these athletes' futures. Like I said before, basketball has really given me so much and has taught me so much about life that I want every young athlete to be able to play the sport that they love for as long as they want. Thank you guys for listening. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me? Okay, so great job, great presentation, Megan. I'm so proud of you that you took a step much further to just not only just playing for fun, but you also try to influence your peers in order to avoid any injuries. And this obviously takes a lot of effort, a lot of courage, a lot of dedication, and your time as well. And I hope you will continue doing your passion by influencing or doing more research to help other athletes in the future. Now, it's really not a question, I just wonder that the fact that there's bigger injuries in female athletes compared to male, and it's only about 6% that the public would care about it. So what would you do about this to influence the public to be more aware of the injuries in female athletes?
I feel like maybe talking about it during sports and during, like, obviously not youth, because it could be something that is like scary to think about as a young athlete, but I feel like in high school, talking about it in your sports or in your clubs and just bringing awareness to the subject in like a group setting, I feel like that could really spread awareness and just have everybody know about the importance of these injuries and preventing them from happening.
Great job, Megan.
Thank you.
Excellent presentation. My question is, does this research speak to anything that you're hoping to do in the future, either in college, with your career, and anything you learn inspire you as you go forward?
I would love to continue to like research this subject. The numbers are like fascinating to think about. Obviously like scary and not great to think about, but I would love to continue to research it. I'm not going into exercise science, but it's something that is really interesting to me, and I would love to continue to kind of get into. And then, like I said before, like coaching and being a mentor is something that I aspire to be one day, so I feel like I could also implement that into my future career.
Okay, great job. When you went to the middle school basketball practice and encouraged them to try these sessions, did you have to kind of encourage them to do it? Because maybe they wanted to shoot baskets or dribble and you're doing something more technical. Did you have to kind of encourage them and convince them that ultimately this is going to lead them to a longer career in sports and things like that? And if you could just tell us how that went.
Yeah, I feel like obviously this could be a lot more boring than actually practicing and playing basketball, but I think I also kind of went into it and I explained to them what I've been through and my experience, like I said in the beginning of this presentation, and I feel like that also made them really intrigued and interested to kind of learn what I had to say and really understand the importance of what I was talking about.
Great job. As someone who's coached female high school athletics for over a decade, I've seen this a lot, right? I've seen this countless times. And it seems like the middle schoolers really took to it and took to your instruction, which is really cool. Do you think that your high school teammates would also be as receptive to this kind of training, kind of taken away, like you were saying, from the basketball time, but also doing this to prevent so they could be on the court longer?
I think so, just because in high school you kind of see more of these injuries happening, and it could be like your close teammate or friend. Also, a lot of us watch sports and you could see it all the time happening, so I feel like it's a more personal experience, and so I feel like they'd be more intrigued to like learn about it.
Great job, Megan.
Thank you.
And out of curiosity, I mean, you have so much detail here. Did you face any challenges while you were researching this or trying to implement it with the girls that you worked with, or is there something you would like to do more with it in the future?
Yeah, I actually went through a couple obstacles during this project. Obviously planning and timing, it was hard because it was also during my basketball season this year, so I had to work around that. And then I only was able to do limited sessions because I wanted to do more, but I unfortunately actually got hurt again this season, and so I wasn't able to walk for a minute. So not being able to walk obviously disrupts the flow of this project, so I wasn't able to do as many sessions that I wanted to, but I was able to work around it and do it after I recovered.
That's great. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jaden Triana, and this is my Gateway Senior Passion Project about celebrating the legacy of engineering and art in Boonton. So a little bit about me. I'm very involved in my school community. I am the class of 2026 vice president. Along with that, I am the NHS treasurer, and I am the head of recruiting and membership for FBLA. Beyond, I'm also involved in other clubs such as Key Club and Spanish Club. Outside of school, I'm also a varsity track sprinter. I just really have a passion for engineering that I've learned over my time in high school. And I know in the future that I will be pursuing a career in engineering, specifically mechanical engineering. I'm currently not committed to a school, but that is my goal. And as a result, I knew for this project all the way back last year that I wanted to focus on engineering. It's something that I was passionate about, and something that I feel is becoming very popular over time. And it was something that needed kind of just people being involved and people really understanding what it's about. Additionally, something else I'm passionate about is history. Although I won't be pursuing that in my future career, it's something that I've always been interested in, especially in the history of Boonton, since it has such a rich and enduring history. However, I was kind of unsure of how to mix the two of these different things, because I know that Boonton has such a wide and large engineering history, but I wasn't sure of the correct way of doing this. However, something else I knew that Boonton was passionate about is art. And so as a result, I thought of an art contest where students could submit designs based on the engineering history of Boonton. And this was something that could involve a plethora of different students. And although personally I'm not super involved in the art department, it was a challenge for me, because this was something that could show how I could maybe pursue something like this in the future. So just a little bit of background. Boonton has had such a large art background. This is a picture of me and my sister about 10 years ago on Main Street during the Dog Days of Summer, which was where different individuals could submit a design of a dog that they wanted. It could be any breed, any design, and it would be sponsored by a business on Main Street. And so this was something that really interested me and my sister. We would walk up and down Main Street, take pictures in front of different dogs. And this was something that about 2 years later, I ended up submitting a dog. It was not selected because I'm not the most artistic person, but it was something that really interested me. Additionally, engineering legacy is known in Boonton, but it's something that's gone largely unrecognized. A lot of people may know about the ironworks or the Morse Canal, but they don't really know how these different engineering bases ended up leading to the successful town that we have today. Additionally, the love Boonton has for its history inspired me to combine different aspects of it. I knew that history was something that Boonton loved, and as a result, I wanted my art contest to focus on that. And so before I even started developing this project, I wanted to do some engineering history research. All the way to the left, this is an example of Boonton radio instruments. During the 1930s to 1950s, when radio really started taking off, there was a bunch of different companies located in Boonton that were developing different instruments and different technologies for the radio industry. This is from the Hewlett-Packard archive, which is the company now known today as HP. They're more known for making computers and PCs, but at the time they also were focused on radios, and there still is different instruments named after Boonton that are used today. In the middle here, we have an image of the Morse Canal. This is something more wide known by most people. It was a canal that ran through the middle of the town and was something that helped connect it to different trading opportunities and led to the industrialized town that existed for a large portion of the later 19th century into the early 20th century. Finally, all the way to the right, we have the Boonton Ironworks, which I would consider the most popular and famous part of Boonton's history, specifically towards engineering. For a while, Boonton was an industrial town, and this was an example of one of their largest factories that existed at the time. There's many different blast furnaces and different industries that were booming at the time. Although this does not exist anymore, This is just one large example of the history of engineering that Boonton has. So I had two key problems through my research and through just me living in this town for quite a while. Many students attending schools in Boonton are unaware of the history of the town. They might know about the ironworks or the Morse Canal at a surface level, but they don't know how impactful this has been on the town that we live in today. Additionally, a second issue was that there is a disconnect between engineering programs and art programs in educational fields. This is not just a Boonton issue. This is an issue across the United States. There's been lots of debates about funding either going towards STEM or art. But my project, I wanted to focus on connecting those two and making sure that those weren't at contention with each other but could be blended into something larger. So the impact of these issues is that students feel they must choose STEM or art. A lot of students who might see themselves as artistically inclined might not see themselves as an engineer, and the other way around. Additionally, some students don't see engineering as accessible. A lot of students see engineering as just math or science, and they don't see how it impacts their day-to-day life and how everyone could create certain things that engineers create in their day-to-day lives. Additionally, as I said before, I felt there was a lack of history involvement in the town, and lots of students might have known about it, but they didn't really go in depth to it. So my first goal was to connect students to the history of Boonton in a unique way. Through an art contest, this would require students to have to do their own research and to go in depth about the engineering history and the legacy that Boonton has. My second one was to make engineering accessible for students. If I blended engineering with art, this was something that could make it more accessible to students, since a lot of students are required to take an art contest or have had an art background prior. Finally, I wanted to ensure the connection of art and science. I did not want these two topics to be at contention with each other. I wanted them to be something that could be blended into something much larger, and how students could see how art does influence engineering and the other way around. So now I had to gain a team and different mentors. My first mentor was Mr. Matarazzo, who helped me in the in-school portion of this project. He's a STEM and woodworking teacher, and he was my teacher during junior year, which is where I grew closer to him, and I just knew that he could bring the engineering and art aspect, because personally, I didn't have that large of an art understanding. He was able to bring that, and he's someone who's very creative. He's involved in drama club and with the set design, and so I knew he was someone that could help me with the hands-on and physical design of this project. Out of school, my community mentor was Mrs. Tracy Pryor, who is the town recreation director. This was someone we needed to contact because I wanted an art installation that could be publicly installed. And of course, you have to contact the town and go through different approvals. So I'm very thankful to Mrs. Pryor. She was able to help us connect with different people and find a location for my installation. Finally, we have Mrs. Angelillo, who's the BHS art teacher. She kind of brought that art and education mindset to the team. She was someone who I was able to speak to when I was going over the design of my project, when we ended up choosing the final sculpture that will be installed. And she was able to contact also the art teacher, Mrs. Hollowell at John Hill. So now to my steps in planning. First, we had to propose the idea of the town government. I wanted this piece to be installed publicly, and of course, you need to get approval. Then I had to talk about the actual location for this project. I wanted it to be somewhere where students and really anyone could go out in public and see this piece and understand the inspiration and the legacy behind it. Then we had to develop different measurements, parameters, criteria for this project. Of course, we didn't want a sculpture that would be like tens of feet tall. We wanted something that could be precise and something that students could easily create a design for. Additionally, after this, we had to create material for a design. So now here's just some examples of communication. On the left, this is the email between Ms. Pryor and I. We had already talked about the project before, but we really want to just hammer in detail. So this was me talking to her. We ended up sending my project board, which will be shown on later slides. And this is just her responding. She really liked the idea, and she was on board with it. On the right, this is an email between Mr. Matarazzo, Ms. Pryor, and I, which was followed our meeting at Town Hall. We had a meeting at Town Hall to discuss what we wanted out of this project and also the final location, which Mr. Matarazzo was able to place on Google Maps. So now to the development of the contest. At first, we struggled with the requirements of this project. We were unsure of the medium that we wanted students to create it in. We didn't know what type of materials we were looking at specifically. Additionally, we did not have a location. In our speaking with Ms. Pryor and the town, we just really wanted a location that was public enough, but it was also located outside. That way, a lot of students could see it throughout the year. Additionally, we struggled with the age group and the method of submission. We didn't know exactly what age we wanted it. We didn't know if we wanted all grades, just middle school, just high school. But after our speaking and our deliberation, we landed on any student attending the school in Boonton from grades 6 to 12th. We felt that most middle schoolers would be able to create a design and express their ideas properly, and so the student did not have to necessarily live in Boonton, but we wanted them attending the school in Boonton because we wanted them involved in the community. Additionally, we made the parameters of our project to be about 16 inches, so a 16-inch cube of space. It didn't have to necessarily be a cube, but it'd be 16 by 16 by 16 inches, and then we chose primarily mosaic materials because we knew that material required the least amount of maintenance and would be able to be placed outside and not really, if there's any rain or any other type of weather, it won't deteriorate as quickly. Additionally, we found the location to be the Pocket Park across from Town Hall, which is shown in the Google Earth piece right there. That's the entire Pocket Park, and where the marker is about where the location of the final installation will be. And so here's a design brief we ended up sending Ms. Pryor and the town. This just kind of went into the goals, the scope, criteria, constraints, and the target audience. We also made a constraint that one aspect of your design had to be flat-backed, which means it had to be entirely flat. That way you could have a three-dimensional sculpture, but we wanted one part to be flat. That way it could be easily installed, and the town did not have to worry about a piece being altered with, or if something happened to it, it would be much easier to install if one portion of it was flat. And then here was a vision board, kind of different ideas we were talking about with her. That way she had an understanding of what the actual project wanted. We actually wanted the project to look like. So for example, that bird there, the bottom of the bird is flat. That would be our idea of flat-backed, but the rest of it is not in a cube or like as linear. It's a design as a sculpture. Additionally, students could also have made just a straight mosaic where it would have been much flatter, as you've seen with the leaves right there. And we just wanted this idea conveyed. That way she really understood what our project was about, and the town was not as hesitant to approve this. And so after this, after we had all our parameters, all our approvals, we ended up making contest material. To the left right here is the sculpture competition flyer that we sent out. This was something that just detailed all the different rules, criteria, and the things we were looking for in designs. Additionally, it had the QR code on there for students to submit their design through a Google form, which is shown to the right. That picture in the middle is just the same stuff that was on the flyer, just in the Google form. And then we also wanted to ask students questions. We wanted somewhere for them to upload their design, an image, but we also wanted to focus on what was inspiring these students. For example, the first question was about what aspect of Boonton's engineering history was displayed in your design, and then also what you researched or what you looked into to focus on that. Then finally, another question we asked was how you were going to use the mosaic motif and medium to convey your design, and which aspect of the design would be flat. That way we could also see the background behind students' thinking and what they wanted to do with their sculpture. So now to submissions. We ended up getting 7 submissions. I was impressed by all the submissions. All the submissions were great. All students worked very well on theirs. We had 5 students from Boonton High School and 2 students from John Hill School. So with a total of 7. Of course, we would have liked maybe a little bit more, but the contest was open for about 2 to 3 weeks. And due to the quality of the designs, I was just impressed by that number overall. To the right of that, we also had different designs we were thinking about. There was a common motif of arches or bridges, which is something that's very common in Boonton and kind of inspired by the blast furnaces of the ironworks. And so this was something we were really impressed by with the students. And as a result, our winning design was created by Caleb Sumner, a senior at Boonton High School. His original design is all the way to the left there. You can see it was a train on top of a bridge. And then in my speaking with Mr. Mayorazzo, once we decided that was the design we wanted, we were just kind of conceptually looking at what would that look like from an isometric view? What would that look like in three dimensions? Additionally, we made a mood board of what different materials we wanted. For example, in the top left, our plinth, which is where the sculpture will be placed on, was made of wood. And then we wanted the bridge to be made of local stone. That way it could kind of be inspired by Boonton itself. Finally, we wanted the train to be made of weathered steel. That way it could not it could be sustainable and would be durable throughout its time being displayed. And then finally, the mosaic aspect of it would be in those little arches of those little alcoves would be filled out with different murals and mosaics. And so here's our final concept. This is a technical drawing that we're going to send out. And so basically, this just shows it from different points of views, what it will look like, how large it will be. Also, as you can see before, that was the plinth. And then we had a 3D rendering kind of based on it. We decided for the train that it would kind of be in a weather vane inspiration, which what that means is that it would be much more thinner, and instead of being completely fleshed out, it would be thinner. That way it wouldn't take away from the design, and it would still be able to have those murals and those mosaics underneath. So now to challenges and personal takeaways. My issue was with communication and approval. I struggled initially with reaching some goals. Additionally, it was difficult to spread information about the contest and get as many responses as I would have liked. Additionally, in the future, I would like a potential program where we could inform students about engineering and art history, kind of like a unit in art that would focus on the engineering legacy. So now to my experience gained, I gained confidence in communication and leadership. I wanted to be assertive with the people that I was working with. I wanted to make sure that my project was what I originally imagined without being too pushy and making sure that everything was getting done. Additionally, I collaborated with many different people in the community, and it was something that I was really inspired by. And also just project and task management. There's lots of different moving parts, and this was something that I needed to work on. And finally, organizing and making sure I was flexible as the project evolved. And this is it. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Hello? There we go. All right, awesome job. Thank you so much. So this seems like it was a pretty long process. Did you have any moments where it was really like, nice ups and maybe some nice downs where you were worried about it being completed, or was it pretty smooth overall, the whole process?
If I'm being honest, there definitely was some times I was a little bit worried about it. For example, we were kind of struggling on finding the location. That was kind of something that was a bit difficult in the earlier aspects. But just in my talking with the town, once I was able to set them that project board, they were really receptive of it, and we were able to find a location. Additionally, I think another difficulty we had was just kind of promoting it. I just felt like there wasn't enough time to promote it and also make sure students were able to submit designs in a timely manner.
Great job. I was actually going to ask about promoting it. Like, how did you get it out to the student body, and how, like, were there any ways, as you said initially you weren't happy with the amount of responses. Were there any ways that you could think that you could get out to more students or get more responses from them?
Yeah, so for the amount of time we had, I think we did a pretty good job of promoting it in just terms of different accesses. Like, we had it in front of that big board in front of Town Hall. We were sending it out in newsletters to both Booton and John Hill. We had Ms. Hollowell send it to all of her students. So I think in the future, I would maybe want a little more like social media influence, especially for high schoolers, because a lot of high schoolers are on social media. And I think that's something we could look towards in the future, and just kind of making it a more well-rounded program.
Great job, by the way. You did excellent, and it clearly showed a lot of detail that went into just the design process and the ongoing communication. And I was curious because I noticed like you had beautiful CAD drawings there. Do you have a timeline of some kind of where you would like to go with it, or how long it would take for it to build? And how would you be obtaining the materials, or are the materials already here?
So currently, I don't have an exact timeline. My plan was, I already have contacted the winner, and so we're gonna contact all students just saying, thank you for submitting it. And then my plan was after spring break, we would probably work with the student directly. It would be the student, myself, Mr. Malaraza, maybe some other students who might want to get involved, and we'll be creating it. And so it should be, I would say, hopefully finished by like mid to late spring. In terms of materials, in my talking to Miss A, she said she had a lot of different resources she could have in terms of donation. And Mr. Malaraza's wife has done mosaic tiling in the past, so he said he has a lot of access to different like mosaic materials and the materials that we would need.
That's wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
great job. This include a lot of details, a lot of communications, a lot of efforts and coordination with many different personnel, many different groups of people. So kudos for that. One thing, obviously you graduating, and I heard you pursuing your career in engineering in the future.
Yeah.
Now, how do you make sure that, because obviously this is such a great project, and it would be great to continue in the future, given that you're gonna be graduating. So how do you make sure that this project will, at least somebody else will, continue doing it year by year?
I think if I were able, like I said previously, if I were able to create kind of like a lesson plan or like a program for art classes where they could have engineering history kind of infused within that, I think that's something I would want to look forward to, especially that's totally something I could maybe speak to Ms. Angelillo about and incorporating that into her lessons. That way students are kind of getting a multifaceted approach to art. It's not just about art, but it's also about the history of the town that they're attending the school in, and also just the engineering behind that. And so I think that's something I would definitely look forward to doing in the future.
Great job, Jaden. Excellent presentation. My question is about the selection of the winner. What were you looking for in that project, and what about the particular winner really spoke to you?
So specifically, we were looking for a design that had both aspects to it. We wanted it to be something that was obviously inspired, but we also wanted to see the students' responses, and we were impressed with Caleb's responses. He had definitely a passionate idea behind it. He talked about like the Lackawanna rail house in his response, and so that's also something we looked at. And we also just kind of looked at the practicality of it. We wanted to see what piece would not only be something that if you were walking by you could understand what it is, but also was inspired. And so we felt like with the train on top and kind of like the bridge, you could definitely, from far away, you could understand what it is. And then if you were to go up close, you could see the different details within the murals and stuff like that. Thank you.
All right, hello, my name is Sarah Gaske, and today I'll be presenting my senior passion project about building longevity and skill in my local junior roller derby team. So a little bit about me. I'm a Gateway senior here at Boone High School for the class of 2026. I'm also a captain for the NJRD Small Stars and a captain of the varsity cross country team, as well as an NHS scholar, a Girl Scout ambassador, a cat rescue volunteer, and a pet enrichment specialist at the Morris Animal Inn. It's through my commitment to the NJRD Small Stars that I was inspired to do this project. So a little bit about my mentors who helped me throughout this entire project. My in-school mentor was Miss Olivia DeTrolio. She's a history teacher here at Boone High School, and I had previously talked to her a bunch about roller derby, so I knew that if anyone here was going to be able to help me, it was going to be her because she was the most familiar with the topic. And she helped me a lot with the planning for the project and prepping for this presentation. My out-of-school mentor was Anna Robelata, who's the captain of who's the coach for the juniors roller derby team, and she helped me a lot with the execution. I know her personally as Fearless Bueller, but I'll get into why that is a little bit later. So why is this important to me? I've been playing roller derby for about 9 years now. I joined in 2017 after my Girl Scout troop went and saw about as brownies. I've always really loved the inclusive spirit of roller derby and this amazing community that surrounds it. The roller derby community rewards hard work, sportsmanship, and being kind to others, and I really want other people to have that same experience that I've had for all of these years. And on top of that, you gain so many skills by playing roller derby. Just by skating, you gain physical skills such as coordination and agility, as well as physical endurance and physical strength. And in terms of mental abilities, you also gain situational awareness and communication, which you gain through interacting with your teammates, as well as strategic thinking, since roller derby does have a very complex rule book that takes a while to understand and to its fullest. So for a little bit of background, since I know most people here probably don't understand what roller derby is, Roller derby was first created in the 1930s around Chicago, and it was initially an endurance sport that took place on a bank track, meaning it was a sloped track. And it eventually became very popular due to high frequencies of rough play and fighting. So they eventually added a rule set that assigned point values to people that you gained by passing them. And throughout its entire existence, roller derby has been known for its inclusivity. Roller derby athletes were actually some of the highest paid female athletes in the mid-1900s, and so that's always been prevalent in the sport. Unfortunately, the original Derby League did shut down in 1973 due to high operational costs of the bank track and the arenas that it took place in. This brings us to modern roller derby. Modern roller derby resurfaced in 2003 as initially an all-women's sport. It was adapted to be played on a flat track, which is much easier to fund and find space for. There's a lot more rules now regarding safety, so no one's getting punched in the face. And so the modern rule sets consist of the WFTDA, which is the Women's Flat Track Derby Association. There's also MRDA, which is the Men's Roller Derby Association, USARS, which is the USA Roller Sports, which has its own unique history, and JRDA, which is the Junior Roller Derby Association. As a junior skater, I skate under the JRDA rule set, which closely follows the WFTDA rule set. Something else I wanted to mention is that there's also what's called derby names. This goes back to what I mentioned about my mentor, Fearless Bueller. So every person in roller derby has to choose a fun nickname for themselves that they go by when they're skating. So my own derby name is actually Saracuda, and I've seen so many fun and unique names such as Snot Rocket Science and Oxford Coma. So for some key terms and basic rule set, just so you can understand some of the terms I'll be using later in the presentation. Every derby game is played on this track, and it's broken up into two halves, which consist of several jams. Each jam is a maximum of 2 minutes long, but it can be called off prematurely. During a jam, there's 5 players from each team on the track. The player wearing the star is the jammer, and they are the point scorer. Their job is to pass the blockers of the other team in order to score points, which brings us to the blockers who are responsible for stopping the jammer of the other team from scoring their points. And there's also the pivot, who wears a stripe on their helmet. They are still technically a blocker, but they have a special ability to become the jammer in the case that a star is passed to them. So for my project, the key thing I wanted to focus on is the fact that roller derby is a very niche sport. So visibility and skater retention is crucial for team survival. Which brings me into my project goals. My goals for this project were first to find an easy and replicable way to fundraise for the team and advertise the team itself. And I also wanted to give the existing skaters on the team a chance to build their own skills, and through experience with adult skaters. So for my brainstorming, I initially thought about hosting boot camps over the summer to act as an opportunity for skill advancement for the skaters. Unfortunately, as I was going through and planning this, I realized that it wouldn't really be possible to get the space, fundraise, and advertise all in the short amount of time I would have if I wanted to get it done by the end of the summer. So I pivoted to a more manageable format of clinics using guest coaches. And in addition to achieve my goal of fundraising and advertising, I decided to also host a can shake. So for my guest coaching, I reached out to the local adult roller derby team, GSR, or Garden State Roller Derby, and I was able to get some of their skaters to come and guest coach some of our practices. I initially had 3 guest coaching practices set up, but unfortunately one of our coaches had to cancel last minute, so we were only able to have 2. Our first guest coaching practice focused on jamming skills, and our guest coaches were Bruce Springsteen and Swiss Mischief. We focused a lot on fast skating and endurance, which is crucial for jammers since they do have to lap the pack a lot more than the blockers. And we also worked on entering the pack with force and finding holes in the wall. Basically, when you're entering the pack, you have to be careful as to how you hit people. Like I said, there's a lot more rules nowadays about how to safely hit someone. So you can't hit someone directly in the back because it's dangerous for their spinal cord. So we also, as well, on top of this, we also talked about some game procedures. Since Swiss Mischief has been skating upwards of 15 years and also does some ref work, she was very helpful in teaching some of our newer skaters about game procedures that they may not have come across since they hadn't skated in any games yet. And then for our second guest coaching practice, we had our guest coach, Lady Di, who helped us with forming strong and effective walls as well as proper communication. She also introduced us to some new techniques that we had not previously seen, such as a form of bracing in which the bracing actually collapses into the pack a little bit to create a stronger bond between the blockers and the brace. We also worked with pushing the jammer out as well. So after these guest coaching practices, I talked to some of our skaters to get some verbal feedback about the practices and what they liked about it. So overall, I think it seems that most of the skaters really enjoyed getting the new perspectives from different coaches and different skaters. I even got some suggestions from our skaters about possibly having a practice with another junior team to get perspective from junior skaters as well. So moving on, we have the can shake. I was inspired to do a can shake by my experience in cross country. In cross country, every year we hold a can shake to fundraise for our end of year banquet. And I knew that this would be a very easy way to fundraise and advertise for the team. So I talked to one of the booster moms for the cross country team, and I was able to learn a lot about how to set it up and what businesses were best to ask about. So I ultimately ended up planning a can shake that would take place in front of the Dunkin' Donuts. So I was able to go and speak to the management there and set up a time over a weekend. And we were able to host a can shake for a few hours where we were able to hand out flyers and fundraise a little bit. Although we were really limited by time and weather, since I did end up doing this later in the season, it was much colder, so it was a bit more difficult to actually do the can shake. So in results, we actually played a game against the Hudson Valley Frightmares at Dirty Fest. This was a game we already had scheduled that we were leading up to with the guest coaching. And overall, we saw great improvement throughout the team, especially within the younger skaters who hadn't skated in many games before. Although I can really only say so much, as a lot of this came down to their own personal ambitions and the amount of work they put into their skating. As also in terms of the can shake, I know I had a bunch of people from the team reach out to me afterwards and give me ideas for places that they knew that might be very helpful for can shaking in the future. So some of the challenges I faced, number one was time. It's very difficult to organize times that work for everybody and getting time to do things. So especially, this leads into attendance, but we are one of the only teams in the area. So a lot of our skaters come from very far away to get to our practices. So setting up practice outside of our usual times can make it difficult to have good attendance because people are less likely to be able to commute to those things. And in terms of space, this is something that constantly troubles most teams, is that finding a good space to skate is very difficult, and most spaces are very expensive to find. So I did really have to work with the limitations of the space that we already had. And then in terms of future plans, this 2026 season will be my last one with the team. I hope to make this season a very productive one and hopefully set up a few more can shakes. I know our coaches are actually reaching out to try and get some more scrimmages and games with other teams. So I hope that this season, even though it's my last, can be very productive. And then in terms of experience gained, I gained a lot of experience in terms of leadership. I already had a bit of a leadership role within the team before I started this project, but I knew that by doing this project, I was able to actually step up into that role and become a better leader within the team. I also learned a lot about networking throughout this entire project. I had to coordinate with a lot of different people to get it done, and I had to use connections I already had through cross country and with the adult team in order to organize things. I also learned a lot about planning, especially the fact that you have to be careful about getting stuck in the planning stage and the actual process of going from planning to actual execution of a project. Thank you. Any questions?
In the interest of time, we're going to ask the panel to please limit your questions to maybe one or two.
Thank you so much for the presentation. That's a lot of efforts. You talk about the challenge. How did you get through all the challenge? How did you motivate yourself?
I think I was very motivated because I am so passionate about this team and doing a lot of things for the team. So I think I was really motivated to get this done to help our team. And To get through the challenges, I really had, like in terms of time, I just had to spend a lot of time scheduling, communicating with other people, and just generally being flexible about things.
It's obvious that you're very, very passionate about what you do, and it's a great presentation. You said that this is your last year in juniors.
Mhm.
So are you graduating to seniors? And if so, would you be able to teach and instruct the juniors with the passion that you have?
Yeah, so basically since I'm entering the season 17, but I'm turning 18, I will be aging out this season. So I will be joining the adult league around here. I'll probably be skating with GSR. But then when I go to college, I'll also probably skate with the team near where I end up. But I do really hope to, wherever I end up, help with any juniors teams they might have, or maybe even if they don't have a juniors team, maybe work to even start one.
Hi everyone, my name is Emily Spar and this is my Gateway Senior Passion Project, Scooping Up Success. So a little bit about myself. I am currently a senior Gateway Scholar. I am currently the president of FBLA as well as a president of GSA, and I am the treasurer of PLC as well as a member of NHS and a member of Key Club, and I'm also the statistician for the girls field hockey team, and I will be attending the University of South Carolina next year studying marketing. So why this project matters to me, I've had a love for working at a very young age, and I had an amazing opportunity to get a job at Ice Cream Sensation my sophomore year of high school, and I later got the manager position in my junior year, which led to a lot of leadership opportunities and a lot of new experiences for me. So when picking out my team, I needed someone that worked with the business world personally. I took entrepreneurship last year with Mrs. LaPlaca, and we learned a lot of marketing skills, sales skills, as well as different terms and different ways that entrepreneurs can strive in their businesses. And then my out-of-school mentor, I chose Patrick Petrovitz, who is the owner of Ice Cream Sensation. Now a little bit of background information about Ice Cream Sensation. It opened up in April of 2024, and this was not the first location. The first location was actually in Wanacue in 2013 and then later closed in 2020 due to COVID. And this is not Pat's first time owning a business. He also owns a business installing garage doors. So he's very familiar with the entrepreneurship world and owning a business. And we found that this location in Lincoln Park was a little bit hard just because there was limited parking, and there was also off of Main Street, which means that there's not as more flow of traffic. So my goal was to increase the flow of traffic in Ice Cream Sensation. So just I had mentioned, the problem that I found throughout my project was that working at Ice Cream Sensation for a full year, I found that the sales were definitely upcoming as the time went on, but the foot traffic was not increasing, and I really wanted to change that just so that the business can thrive. I found that using online presence and marketing strategies would really help the business as a whole, and it would increase the sales overall. So the goals of my project, like I just mentioned, was to increase the foot traffic as well as the increase in sales. I was going to do this by using strong marketing strategies that I learned in entrepreneurship, and I was going to work with Ms. Laka to actually learn and engage with these marketing strategies. And I offered new and limited menu items. As you could see over there, I offered like a Labor Day frozen fusion, which is just red, white, and blue. And then also we did layer delights of the week, which we posted on social media every single week, just so the customers would know what's up to date with the business. Now the research and methodology, I really wanted to start this project by doing what we had at Ice Cream Sensation. So I made a full menu that we printed out and we handed those out to customers, and I also posted those online as well. And I used social media like I just mentioned, and we also did town events and food bloggers, and this really did increase the amount of sales overall throughout my project. So the proposal I said to Mrs. LaPlaca and Pat is that I wanted to address the limited visibility that the business was actually seeing, and I proposed a multi-strategical marketing plan with Mrs. LaPlaca that I proposed to Pat that we would raise awareness in the actual business and drive in-store foot traffic. So the steps I took for this project was I met with the business owner multiple times a week to come up with a plan that we would eventually do over time, and we created and planned social media events, town events, and even had a local food tester come in. And the Lincoln Park Day was honestly the best event that I hosted. It really promoted our small business throughout the town and really just brought more customers in throughout. So just a little timeline of my project. In March of 2025, I started planning with Mrs. LaPlaca, and then in May of 2025, I started my social media platforms. In June of 2025, I had set up a date with the local food taste tester, and then in July, I maintained the upkeep of the social media platforms, and then in September, I eventually did do the booth at Lincoln Park Day. So my first marketing strategy was social media. When Ice Cream Sensation first opened, there was only a Facebook account that only had about 100 followers. And since the other location in Wanacue was not at a time where social media was very popular, I found that using TikTok and Instagram and Facebook would really promote our business. And I found that the TikTok page did very, very well. The Instagram was more of just promoting new items, and then Facebook was more for the older folks who don't have Instagram and TikTok. And I really found that this increased the inline engagement as well as promoting new items that would allow customers to come in, and then it really helped our customers discover where our business is in town. So here's a little TikTok video that got 4.4 million views. Our TikTok did very well. As you can see, we had around 2,000 followers as a whole, and we had around 600,000 likes. We wanted to do the Creators Fund on TikTok, which is a way that you can get profit off of TikTok. Unfortunately, since we are a seasonal business, we were unable to do that just because we would not be posting content consistently. So we found that even though our views were very high, our following was not up to par with the curator's content. So you needed at least 10,000 followers to make money off of TikTok. And although we did have many views, we found that this was unable for us, but it was definitely something I wanted to do in the future. So here's just a little TikTok video that we posted that I just said that got 4.4 million views.
You wear those shoes and I will wear that dress. Oh, kiss me.
So we found using popular hashtags and popular audios were definitely popular, and that gained a lot of views. And like I said, the 4.4 million views was definitely something I was very shocked by. And we kept this up throughout all of the business and even throughout my project. Each time that we posted, we definitely used like hashtag FYP, hashtag ice cream, just popular things that people would eventually see on their For You page. So then going along to my marketing strategy number 2, I had a local New Jersey food taster come in. She works with small businesses in northern New Jersey, and she has around 5,000 followers, which is a little bit more than we have. And as you can see over there in that picture, there's just a little description she posted with our business just to promote some ice creams and some certain specialty menu items that we had. And she did this completely for free, which I was very thankful for. She consistently posted content in promoting our business, and we did gain a lot of sales throughout that week that she came in. And even so, after that, she posted a couple months after she had came in, which also increased sales for that month and even that day. So the next steps I took is that Pat and I were discussing the next steps that we had to take, that we wanted to increase more of the sales rather than the marketing strategies of this project. So we decided to create an Uber Eats and a DoorDash account. Now this did cost money, so this was definitely something that we had to talk about to make sure this was going to be something that was going to be worth our time and our money. So I was on the phone with one of the Uber Eats guys from New Jersey, and he was kind of explaining each of the packages to me and telling me which ones would be beneficial for us. We started with the smallest package, which was the cheapest, and it meant that we didn't have every single menu item on Uber Eats and DoorDash. It was just a few of each section. So we had like a couple of milkshakes, a couple of hard ice creams, a couple of soft ice creams, just everything so people could promote our business, especially when weather was bad. When we found that the weather was bad, the sales definitely were down. So Uber Eats and DoorDash definitely helped increase this. And although it was costly, it definitely was worth it in the end. Now finally, my marketing strategy number 3 was hosting a booth at Lincoln Park Day. I posted this poster on all of our social media accounts just saying what was going to be at Lincoln Park Day and what I was going to be promoting. So we had a little wheel game of coupons, gift cards, and we also had a special menu item for that day, which was ice cream tacos. We were selling it for $7, which we found was very popular. And here's a picture of me just standing outside the store with the little clips that I had made with the phone number, the location of our business, and just the coupons were one free topping with the purchase of ice cream. We're also giving out $5 gift cards for anyone that landed on that wheel. And I found that there was a huge jump in the sales that day. It honestly tripled compared to everything else. And we did find that a lot of Lincoln Park community members were very shocked by how much we had at our store since we were a relative new small business. And this honestly helps us so much when it came to finding where our store was. Like I did mention earlier, there are not much parking spaces when it came to our store. So when people found out where we were located, it definitely helped out at the end. And some reviews that I got from my overall feedback of my project and even the store as a whole, this wasn't just for one specific part of my project, but more as the business as a whole and how we thrived with our customer service, the menu items. They were all 4-star reviews, and they found that there was great service, there was good menu items, and it's a great addition to the town. And then my overall results for this project was I increased community awareness as well as the growth in social media presence and boosted store traffic by overall around 20%. And it strengthened the brand identity for Ice Cream Sensation. And some skills I personally developed was some communication skills, leadership skills, business collaboration, and marketing strategies, as well as social media management skills. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay, and once again, we will keep the questions to a limited number just so we can get everyone on to lunch soon.
Great job, Emily. I have kind of a silly question, but what's your go-to ice cream order at Ice Cream Sensation?
My go-to ice cream order is espresso Oreo with marshmallow sauce on top. It's so good.
So what was the challenge run through all the business?
I'd say the biggest challenge was honestly finding ways that we could do stuff at a low cost. Like social media is free, and we definitely wanted to find ways that would be less cost for us. Although that DoorDash and Uber Eats was come at a price, it definitely increased our sales overall. So I found that to be quite a challenge, but overall I think everything went pretty well.
Thank you to our seniors for sharing your incredible work today. And thank you for everyone for being such an engaged audience. We hope you enjoyed the presentations and were able to appreciate the creativity, dedication, and impact of each project. It is now my pleasure to invite Principal Klebetz to deliver the closing remarks.
Okay, thank you. I won't take up too much time because I'm sure everybody's very hungry, especially after watching Emily's presentation on ice cream. I do want to say, how about one more round of applause for our seniors here? I know that so much time went into these presentations, and I am very impressed with the projects that you did for your communities. But I was even more impressed with the way that you reflected on what you did and ways that you could improve that. So kudos to you. I thought they were all fantastic. The underclassmen, you see what the expectations are. They continue to grow each and every year. So next year's seniors, we're looking for even better projects out of you. And I also wanted to welcome our incoming ninth graders who are here from John Hill and Lincoln Park. I hope that you can see the benefits that you can bring to your community with these projects. So definitely, as you progress through your time here at Boonton High School, you have an opportunity to think, what does my community really need? So again, thank you so much for everybody's time. And again, it's time for lunch, so thank you. I hope you enjoyed your day.
Announcements for lunch. Hi. Okay, perfect. Thank you everyone for your patience. What I would like to let you guys know how we're going to proceed for lunch. Parents, families, guests joining us live and via live stream. Thank you all for being here. This has been an amazing opportunity for us to share the work of our Gateway Academy students, and it means so much that you could all be here. Panelists, thank you for your time as well. For our freshmen, please hang out here for a minute. Sophomore student leaders who are going to be working with our 8th graders, current 8th graders, please also hang out here for a minute. Seniors, stay. We're going to have you up on stage in just a second, take some pictures. And then juniors, other than our ambassadors, I would like everyone to please proceed to the cafeteria for your lunch. You will be getting a pizza lunch. Enjoy.
As one final closing remark, on behalf of the entirety of the Gateway Class of 2026, we would like to thank Ms. Ball and Madame Carey for everything that they've done for us. They've truly been fantastic in these past 4 years, and we really can't say thank you enough.
Seniors, please join us on stage.
you.